few weeks. Michael Flynn resigning, right? Buried in the revelations about National Security Advisor Michael Flynn resigning, right? Him having contact with the Russian government that he did not own up to and lying about what the content was of his communications. Buried in those revelations was not just the fact that he talked to the Russian government during the transition, but he also had multiple contacts with the Russian government during the campaign, right? During the campaign. What was he talking to them about during the campaign when the Russians were hacking our election? Explicitly referenced in the dossier is a meeting by Trump campaign foreign policy advisor Carter Page. A meeting between him and a very senior Russian official in July 2016. Not only has the Trump campaign now admitted that that meeting happened, today a Trump campaign official confirmed to Politico.com that not only did that meeting happen in Moscow, but the Trump campaign explicitly authorized Carter Page to go to Moscow and take that meeting at the time. That's just confirmed by the Trump campaign today. Wednesday night last week, the New York Times reported that the British and the Dutch, American allies, including the British and the Dutch, have given information to U.S. investigators about not just intercepted communications, but in-person meetings during the presidential campaign between people close to Vladimir Putin, including Russian government officials, and people close to Trump. They were allegedly holding in-person meetings in European cities, and European intelligence agencies reported on those meetings to the U.S. They reported on those meetings between Trump folks and Putin folks during the campaign. And that news, fairly explosive news, from the New York Times, that was last Wednesday night. It was overshadowed in the news cycle because a couple hours after the New York Times posted that article, the Washington Post broke the news that Attorney General Jeff Sessions himself had taken at least 2 meetings with Russian government officials that he had not disclosed even when he was asked about it under oath during his confirmation hearings. And so, yeah, it's understandable that those earlier allegations from earlier in the evening got overshadowed, but, you know, the Sessions thing, how's that resolving? That led to, a whole big drama that continues today about Sessions recusing himself as Attorney General, recusing himself from overseeing any of the investigations into the Trump campaign and its contacts with Russia. But once again, we're sort of in this situation with this story in particular and the Trump administration in general, where it's sort of best to treat it like a silent movie a little bit. Ignore the personal stuff. Ignore all the kinetic fighting about this stuff in Washington. Okay? Get back to the main point here. Right? Get back to the big point here. Get back to the, challenging the fate of the republic stuff here, right? The main allegation here, the thing everybody is most worried about, which is the bottom line allegation of this unproven dossier, is that Russia didn't just attack our election. They did so with the knowledge of and support of the Trump campaign. That the Trump folks were in on it. That they knew what Russia was doing while they were doing it, and they continued meeting with Russians in knowledge of that activity during the time of the attack. So yeah, the Jeff Sessions drama and the recusal questions are interesting and will continue to be newsworthy. But look at the meeting that gave rise to the recusal, right? That meeting with Jeff Sessions and the Russian guy happened September 8th. What did they talk about? I mean, these were the headlines that week, right? This is the Washington Post. Started that week. U.S. investigating potential covert Russian plan to disrupt November elections. This was the biggest story in the country that week. And that's when Jeff Sessions took his meeting with a Russian government official. Did they talk about the biggest story in the country that week, which was about the Russian government and the Trump campaign, as they took that meeting as a representative of the Russian government and the Trump campaign? Right, remember the bottom line here, the allegation here, the bottom line allegation here, the worst case scenario is collusion, that the Trump folks were in on it, that they were in communication with the Russians about this while the Russians were doing it. And yeah, Sessions is recused. We've still got an open question as to whether there will be an independent investigation. Today was the confirmation hearing of the man nominated to be Deputy Attorney General. Sessions has recused himself from the Trump-Russia investigations. It would be this Deputy Attorney General, if he's confirmed, to be who would be overseeing what we're told there's several ongoing Justice Department investigations into links between the Trump campaign and the Russians. The nominee, Rod Rosenstein, today would not commit to handing those duties off to an independent special prosecutor, even though if he decides to do this himself, that puts him in a weird position, right? I mean, if he decides he's going to personally oversee these investigations, it'll not just be him investigating the Trump campaign that just appointed him to this high position, it'll be him overseeing an investigation into his own boss, Jeff Sessions, since Sessions personally is implicated. Sessions himself is implicated in this story, and the timeline of his Russian contacts needs explaining as part of any looking into this. Right, so the independence of the FBI investigations, the Justice Department investigations, right? If you're worried about the FBI investigations and the other DOJ investigations here, if you're worried that those may not cut the mustard in terms of aggression and independence, well, what are the other investigations? There's these intelligence committees in Congress, right, that are also leading investigations. One of them in the House, headed by a Trump campaign transition official, who just announced today that they will hold their first public hearing on this issue on March 20th. The other investigation in the Senate is headed by a member of the National Security Advisory Committee to the Donald Trump campaign. Right? But that brings us to the shooting star that went off in this story today. NBC News reported last week, on the day Sessions recused himself on Thursday, NBC reported on the basis of two sources that Senate Intelligence Committee headed by Richard Burr, who was part of the Trump campaign, NBC reported that committee was interested in talking to the author of the dossier. The author of the dossier, the former MI6 officer who prepared this sheaf of information, first for private clients and then reportedly who brought it to the FBI himself in the summer of last year when he was so disturbed by what he found, by what he concluded about collusion between the Trump folks and the Russians. Again, what he found was evidence, what he says he found was evidence not just of Russia attacking the US presidential election, but one party in that election, the Trump campaign, helping, going along with it, colluding, being part of it. And that is way worse allegation than just the Russians attacking our election, right? Or the Trump campaign having inexplicable contacts with Russians that they keep forgetting. The allegation of collusion is very, 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 very serious. Right? I mean, it's sort of as serious as it gets. It's a whole different ballgame than there's something mysterious here, follow the money. Right? And again, the allegations in this dossier, we have to continue to describe them as uncorroborated. But toward the basic thesis of this dossier, that the Trump campaign was in on it, little pieces of that, little checkable pieces of that have been falling into place almost every day now. And clearly the author of this dossier thought that he was onto something, thought that he had seen in action and he was proving that collusion was underway, and he was so disturbed by it that he took it to the FBI. And NBC reported on Thursday that the Senate Intelligence Committee wants to call him personally to testify about this. Until today, that was all academic. Interesting, but academic. Because of course the author of this dossier famously went into hiding as soon as BuzzFeed published this document in January. But you know what happened today in London? He's alive. Look, there he is. He's back. He's no longer in hiding. Christopher Steele, the author of the dossier, made himself known publicly today. He says he's going back to work at his intelligence firm and he doesn't want to answer any questions. Okay, well, number one, it answers some questions. Number one, this means he's alive. Number two, he's well and capable of speaking. Number three, he made sure to appear by video, so presumably people who recognize him can recognize him and back up the fact that that really is him. He really has surfaced. Does this mean, though, that we as American citizens are finally going to get access to what he knows? That we're finally going to get to hear what backs this up? Is the Senate Intelligence Committee going to call him and have him testify like NBC News reported late last week? Well, we called the Senate Intelligence Committee tonight, and they told us no, probably not. Press secretary to the top Democrat on the Senate Intelligence Committee tonight told us, quote, "It is not at all likely, at least not at this moment." Christopher Steele is back. He's alive. He's out there. You guys investigating this when I talk to him? And so far, it is us as American citizens, it is us in the press who are connecting the dots on this story, who are figuring this out. Do we have any reason to believe that any government official investigation into this scandal is doing the same? Honestly, it's a DOJ controlled by a Trump campaign official, or it's two intelligence committees each controlled by a Trump campaign official. Support your free press. It is really starting to feel like we're going to have to do this ourselves.